The big wheels are on the Isle of Man for the 5th round of the Dunlop Tarmac Championship. Bertie Fisher, James Cullen, Kenny McKinstry, Richard Smith and Frank Maher have come halfway across the Irish Sea by steam packet in search of Dunlop points. And although Colin McRae and Russell Brooks are primarily interested in the British Championship, they can also add to their tarmac scores on this scenic sanctuary, which contains some of the fastest stages in Europe. Stages that Bertie Fisher and the Tough Mac team adores.
We've had some good runs here in the past, but again, it's a new rally this time, so we have to treat it just like any other rally. And but it's we know the island fairly well. We've been here a lot of times, and we always look forward to it.
Now, obviously, tremendous opposition this year.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. The opposition is very, very tough, probably as strong as it's been now for a number of years. So, but it's a long rally. It's 3 days, 41 stages, and you've got to be at the finish.
Last year, of course, it was probably the scene of your greatest triumph and also your greatest disaster.
Yeah, we had obviously a very good rally for 35 special stages last year, and led right from stage number 1, which was really ideal.
And really ideal it was for the privateer, then in a BMW M3, who dominated in spectacular style from the very first stage. But that fairy tale drive came to an end when the Tough Mac car punctured with unbelievably just 2 stages to go.
But back to the present, and Kenny McKinstry has 2 goals in mind for the next 3 days.
We'll be wanting to win Group N if we can, and if we get points in the top 10, then fair enough. But realistically, with the Group A cars and the European drivers that you have in this rally, getting a top 10 finish, I would think now would be probably the very maximum.
The big rival in Group N is Robbie Head in the 4-wheel drive Cosworth.
Kenny and I have had some good battles in Donegal and Ulster, so probably be a renewed win here, so we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
Frank, you're not a total stranger to the island.
No, we've been here once before in '87, spectated a couple of times, but we've never done the international before.
Now, obviously you've done your recce, very fast stages.
Very quick, very bumpy, very hard to know how quick to go over the bumps. I reckon we want to be here 2 or 3 times competing to know exactly how quick it's going to be.
Richard, I'm sure you remember last year's Manx rally.
Yes, and there's even a photograph in the programme this year to remind me. That 7th stage, we had the big roll, but I'll put that behind me.
Now, it's a very fast event. You're up against really works cars here. How can a privateer hold out?
Probably can't stay with the good 4-wheel drive stuff. I would expect to be nibbling around the bottom of the top 10 somewhere and then wait for things to break.
Russell Brooks, who's been a controversial winner on the island in the last 2 years, is only seeded number 5 because of the international seeded drivers present. And Bertie Fisher and Rory Kennedy at number 7 are the top Irish hopes. But it's French champion Francois Chatriot who blasts away from the grandstand in one of the 2 Prodrive Subarus entered. Followed by the 1988 winner, Belgian Patrick Sniers, one of the few debutants to win on his first visit to the island.
In the mountains north of Douglas, the real rally starts, and Colin McRae proves that the Subaru's pace on the practice stage is no flash in the pan. French champion Chatriot has not been too happy about this bumpy type of tarmac, but a pro is a professional on any surface. 4 times winner Russell Brooks is a Manx expert, but the Sierras are not receiving any legacies from the Subarus. David's out to slew the Goliath again, David Medcraft that is. It's the same colour, but a new car for James Cullen, and new car problems will cost the Donegal driver dearly in the early stages. There's no glory this year for Patrick Sniers. The great Belgian driver will not make it past stage 5. But where's Bertie Fisher? That's him on the left at the start of stage 2. From the inside of McKinstry's car, we see that the tough Maxera has come to a halt just yards from the start line. Transmission failure has wrecked the hopes of the Dunlop Tarmac champion and the many Irish fans who are on the island to support him. Robbie Head is also giving the Irish Group N champion some headaches. As Kenny McKinstry and Robbie Philpott scream down to the Brandywell junction, their Scottish rival is already a dozen seconds ahead. But Kenny's calculated that his four-wheel drive rival will have transmission problems.
100. 2 left, maybe, 60. Keep right. 2 over jump and cut 2 left over jump, 80. Long 1 left, 80. 1 left, 60. 2 right,
Now ahead
60.
is another unique Isle of Man obstacle, a cattle grid.
1 right, 60. 2 right, maybe over jump, 80. 2 right, maybe, 60. Keep right for 2 left over grid, 60. 1 right, 40. 2 right, maybe, 60.
Michael Sundstrom hasn't been seen on the island since his days in the Peugeot supercar. And Frank Maher and Dermot O'Gorman, despite an obvious brake locking problem, are in the headlines in 4th place. Richard Smith is listed 5th, but it's a false hope as there's a false time in there. And it's big weekend for Isle of Man resident Mark Higgins in a Works Vauxhall drive. British Group N Championship leader David Maslin has been hopping in the heather. And Dane Jorgen Nielsen has an unusual approach to the Manx yumps.
The foxy part of the Foxdale stage, Robbie's letting it all hang out. Frank still break or bust and showing excellent early form. But Francois has been somewhat backward on stage 4 and he's dropped from 2nd to 12th. By stage 6, Colin McRae has a 30-second advantage. He set fastest time on all but the first stage. Brooks is getting a belting from the Subaru. The Shell Oil's championship battle is looking decidedly one-sided at this stage. Sundstrom's four-wheel drive Mazda 323 is 3rd, but 50 seconds back on the Texaco car. As he did in Donegal, Frank Maher is showing his extraordinary ability to adapt quickly to new terrain. And James Cullen's Four Lanterns car is now healthy again and recovering fast. Flaming lanterns, you might say.
At the lunch break back in Douglas, we catch up at the news. The dramas have been plentiful, and Chatriot's Subaru, like the Manx cat, has lost its tail.
I did a mistake before the 4th stage. I changed the tires, so I started this stage with cold tires. I was not careful enough on the 3rd or 4th T-junction and came too fast for these cold tires at the back. I spun and went backwards in a tree. So the car is badly damaged. The suspension is bent, so I had to do all the stage 2 here, and now we have a long time service, so we will change the suspension.
It's really been a bit of a disaster at the start. A bit slow in the first stage. Went to the second stage, the car stopped on us 3 times, and we dropped a minute 10 seconds to Russell on us, which dropped us completely off the leaderboard. You know, it kept stopping, and eventually stopped going up a hill, and we got it fired up again, and then we welded the clutch to the flywheel trying to get off the line, off the hill again, and we had to stop again, let it cool down, and footer about for gears and things like that, and we got it going and missed and blotted our way to the end, and actually stopped 3-4 times on the stage. You know.
The saddest tale of all, though, is Bertie Fisher's.
We did the first stage, started the second stage just taking the car off the line, and something has broken in the transmission. The boys think it's maybe a shaft in the gearbox or something like that. But, we coasted to a halt about 50 yards into the stage.
Could you believe it?
Well, that's just one of those things. You know, it's nothing. We just realised then when we took the car out that reverse gear was working, but I don't think we would have reversed through the stage anyway.
The afternoon action begins at the famous Brandywell stage, where one of the performers that the large crowd has come to see becomes a spectator. Colin McRae and Derek Ringer are very much in command. Already it looks as if the Manx is going to be added to his Talkland, Circuit of Ireland and Scottish successes. But the transmission failure on the Ulster is too recent a memory for the Prodrive team to become complacent. Russell Brooks is now second. He's benefited from Francois Chatriot's problems. Sundstrom is falling back into the clutches of the pursuing Cosworths. The real threat to his third position is not fourth-placed Frank Maher, who overdoes the handbrake a little at Brandywell Cottage. But James Cullen and Ellen Morgan, the Tony Kelly cars supported Cosworth, is now fifth and closing fast on Sundstrom. Over the horizon comes the Naughty Nova, despite this little overindulgence. Metcalf is a magnificent sixth overall. Back at the start of Brandywell, we hitch a ride with Kenny McKinstry and Robbie Philpott. Unknown to them, they're about to inherit the Group N lead.
Two left, maybe 80. One right, 200. Four right over bridge.
On this very bend, Robbie Head will crash heavily out of the rally in 2 minutes' time. Fortunately, without injury to either Robbie or his co-driver Campbell Roy. For Head, it's a disaster. For McKinstry, it's a gift.
80. One left, 100. Long four left, tightens. 80. Three right, 80. Turn hairpin right. Into open hairpin left. 60. Four right, 80. Kerr, five right over grid on left. 60. Three left, 60. Long two left, maybe tightens. 40. Three right, maybe 100. Kerr, five right over crest.
Richard Smith approaches Brandywell with apprehension. He's glad to get that little acre of the Isle of Man behind him, as 12 months ago Richard and Michael Reid got a very different view of this piece of moorland.
Village in the south of the island closes its streets annually to provide this splendid stage. It's street racing at its very best, and when it comes to showmanship, Colin McRae is the master. Although this display is deliberately over the top, Colin can afford to celebrate, as his faultless drive has given him a 1 minute 19-second advantage over his pursuers. Russell Brooks can do nothing about the Subaru, and the former British champion has been dropping time all day to McRae the younger.
The car coming through the harbour
recovery has been one of the talking points. He's now third, but too far back on Brooks to provide any real threat. James's attention is on the car behind, Francois Chatriot, who, despite its battered behind, is now the fastest man on the stages. He's still not totally happy with the handling, but he's climbed 8 places in as many stages. Sundström is looking a little bit more lively in the Mazda, but he has succumbed to the pressure from that other Japanese manufacturer, and he's now down to 5th. Arriving at Castletown in a blaze of glory comes Dave Metcalf and Ian Grindrod. They're wringing extraordinary times out of the little 1600cc Nova and head the privateer Cosworths of Maher and Smith. Frank has a gearbox problem, and he's also suffering from bouncy suspension. Richard Smith cannot bridge the 1-minute gap between him and Frank Maher, and he's now under severe pressure from Manx resident Gary Leese, who is only 1 second behind in his Cosworth. This is what Castletown looks like from the inside. Although Kenny McKinstry has slowed down, you can still see that this is quite a stage. There's no speed limits in Castletown tonight.
3 left into 1 right, 40. Kerr, turn 4 right, maybe, tightens. Into 3 right, 40. 3 right and keep right, and turn 6 left. 60. 5 right, opens. 40. Turn 4 right, maybe. Keep curb and left, and 2 right, 60. 1 left, 60.
Here he comes, come on, let him hear that you're behind him. Manx man, here he comes, yeah!
The top locals naturally have enormous support, particularly Higgins in his first Works Vauxhall drive. Gary Leese, however, is the top home runner in 9th place, but sadly he will retire with transmission failure before the night's out. There's a mighty battle in the 2-litre Group N class between Richard Burns' Peugeot and Ian Calvin's Opel. Burns is impressive, but for sheer guts you have to hand it to the Calvin brothers, who blaze their way through Castletown. Trevor Cathers is dominating the 1600 Group N class, and Michael Murray leads his class in the Dunlop Championship. So Colin McRae is the dominant overnight leader as he goes to bed with a 3-minute advantage.
There's nothing like a good tweak of the handbrake to wake you up in the morning. This spot at Airy has dashed many Manx hopes in the past, and it was the scene of Chatriot's indiscretion yesterday. Colin McRae jumps well to the left of the road and continues to take time out of Brooks. Brooks keeps it straight down the middle. Chatriot keeps well to the right, as it was the tree in the left that was his downfall on day 1. But Colin's got a puncture. How's that for an avoidance? The rear left tyre is definitely down. Watch again in slow motion as he fights with the problem. It's a tribute to the Donegal driver's tremendous skill that he manages to get away with it. Dave Metcalf has no puncture, but what a jump. At this pace, it's no wonder he's 6th. Watch him again as he wrestles with the wheel. Right lock, right again, all in a split second. David Maslin has his moment before he arrives in the jump. Richard Smith is just flaming good over that obstacle. And Mike Rimmer, well, what did you expect? He breaks the altitude record at Airy. We're
at the end of stage 25 at 18 kilometres, one of the longest in the rally. The sort of place where things can happen. But as they say, once you get stuck into a good book, it's hard to tear yourself away, not even when it's Michael Sundstrom. It's gripping stuff, this rallying. Not even the presence of the French champion going all out for second place can impress our learned trio. Chatriot's passed Cullen for third place, who trails his exhaust here. What's that about fact being stranger than fiction? At least Frank Maher's locking wheels gets some notice. The BMW should get some attention. John Price is first through. Then the ever-entertaining Mike Rimmer. At least somebody's enjoying it. Surely this is the final chapter for Rudy Lancaster. But does he impress the engrossed bibliophiles? Never.
Back in Douglas, the buzz is all around the Prodrive camp, where one driver is slowing down, the other speeding up.
The last few stages this morning we've just really slowed the pace down and not taking any chances at all.
That's the decelerating Prodrive driver. Now for the accelerating one.
I tried to catch Russell, so I have to hurry up because he's still more than 1 minute ahead of me, so I go the fastest I can.
And here's the little rocket in 6th place.
Does it give you a lot of joy to be embarrassing Cosworths and the like?
I just enjoy driving the car. It is a very enjoyable car to drive. You know, obviously I would like to be in a car that we could go and win our rights with, but this is what we've got at the moment and we've just got to make the best of it.
Three minutes advantage in rallying is enormous. So much so that Colin has time to wave to the camera. But behind him, things are more serious. Russell is less than a minute ahead of Chatriot. The French ace has been setting fastest times all day as he relentlessly closes the gap. This chase will be the highlight of the rally. Cullen can't mirror the Subaru's times, but his mission is to keep on the pressure in the hope that one will drop out and James will gain a B seeding. Sundstrom 3 wheels through Selby Village in 5th place.
It's now just 10 stages to victory for Colin McRae. But the big change on the island has been the weather, as Colin takes the Subaru downhill on the rev limiter. Russell's hopes of second place are shrinking by the mile, as overnight Chatriot has closed the gap to 19 seconds. Chatriot was brought to the Isle of Man to support McRae's campaign to win the championship, so he would never have been allowed to win. If James Cullen can maintain this position, he will go into the lead in the Dunlop Tarmac Championship. But he still hankers after that third place. Dave Metcalf has to keep on the pressure, as the ever-threatening Cosworths are just 1 minute behind. Richard Smith is 8th. He is also in the Dunlop points, and Kenny McKinstry, just 42 seconds behind him, has decided to put up the pace today. The sheer boredom of cruising to a Group N victory has got to the Banbridge driver.
These enthusiasts have gathered to have a quick gander at stage 34. And Cool Hand Colin has time for another wave. Russell's pace here looks almost as if he's accepted the inevitable. But in fact, he's opened up the gap between himself and the Frenchman to 42 seconds. Chatriot had a spin on the previous stage. Gander, where will Mike Rimmer wander?
Four left.
As we climb Druiddale with Kenny
Three
McKinstry,
right,
ahead is
five
one
left.
hazard that all rally drivers fear:
Into long, three
fog.
right, tightens into four right. Into two left and two right. Into Kerr, four left, tightens. 100.
For those with time to spare, it's not a problem. But for Russell Brooks, it's a new uncomfortable hazard in his quest to stay ahead of the fast Frenchman. Chatriot is calling on all his reserves of bravery to use the murky conditions to his advantage, and by the end of this stage, he will have closed the gap down to 25 seconds. James Cullen is never short in bravery, and he's throwing the Tony Kelly car's Cosworth into the mist. From Robbie Philpott, we learn that pace notes get a whole new meaning in these conditions.
White line, 62 left, maybe. $150. Right 100. Yeah, it's right 100. Two right over grid. Yeah.
Even after the finish, they get a fright with an unseen cattle grid.
The Sarsfield hairpin is a favourite spot for spectators, but not on a day like this. However, the McRae ladies are in high spirits. Chatriot is now only 11 seconds off that second place. He's the one person who's still providing the thrills in an otherwise rather settled top 10. Did I say one person? James Cullen is still trying. And that's more like the real Kenny McKinstry. The Bavarian babes, John Price and Mike Rimmer, seem to have problems getting their M3s to stop at Sarsfield. But the action is far from over, as this amateur footage from Ian Jones in Denbigh shows. This fast right-hander is about to catch out Mike Williams with disastrous consequences.
Tidy.
Welshman Williams and his co-driver Lewis Henry from Belfast have completely misjudged the bend, and the Nova goes over an incredible 4 times without damage to its passengers. Some very relieved marshals and spectators watch the shaken but unharmed occupants emerge from the wreckage.
And so to the Manx Roll of Honour, 10th Mike Rimmer and Steve Turvey, after a highly entertaining drive.
9th, Kenny McKinstry and Robbie Philpott, the Group N winners, giving them an international B seeding.
8th, Richard Smith and Michael Reid on their return to the island.
7th, Frank Meyer and Dermot O'Gorman on the Tipperary drivers' first visit to the International.
6th, and winners of their class in another giant-killing performance, Dave Metcalf and Ian Grindrod.
5th, Finn Michael Sundstrom and Jake Honkanen in the Mazda.
4th, James Cullen and Ellen Morgan after a fabulous recovery from early problems. They will leave the island leading the Dunlop Championship.
3rd goes to Russell Brooks and Neil Wilson, keeping them still in the British Championship race.
Because, with just 2 stages to go, they were overtaken by Francois Chariot and Michael Perrin. This was undoubtedly one of the drives of the rally.
And the 1991 Manx International winners, Colin McRae and Derek Ringer, who now virtually have the British Championship in the bag.
Congratulations, Colin. It's made your British Championship hopes much more realistic now.
Yeah, it means we can go into the last round and either Russell or I can win. It's all very fair and square now.
But you really have fairly big advantage there, don't you, when they start dropping rounds?
Yeah, we do. If Russell wins the rally, we need to finish somewhere in the top 10. It's no problem. And if we both retire in the rally, then I win in the tie break. So it's a bit more in my favour.
What you may not be aware of is that you're now very much also in the running for the Dunlop Tarmac Championship. You've got 40 points in that, just 2 points behind the leader.
Yes, we haven't really been concentrating on that, but obviously now we may have a look at it.
So we may see you in Ireland.
Well, I love coming to Ireland, I wouldn't mind.
We win the Group N in the Tarmac Championship as well, which we can't be caught in that now with 80 points out of a possible 100 so far. And the nearest one to us, I think, has 35, so if they got 2 maximums, that still would leave us winning it.
So congratulations, you're the champion for the 2nd year in a row.
That's right. The only other thing now that we're thinking very seriously of is probably a Group A car, for if we can arrange something for Cork and Killarney and possibly go for the overall Tarmac Championship now. That would really put the icing on the cake.
4th overall, superb result, but not quite the result you wanted.
No, we did all we could do really, and the difference in technology is there really at the end of the day, and a bit disappointing really. You know, so close to BC again this year, which could mean a lot for next year, but that's the way it goes. That's rallying. We did the best we could, and we still had a good drive, so we can't be too disappointed really, I suppose.
Well, you can't be that disappointed because you're leading the Dunlop Tarmac Championship.
Yes, well, that's one of our objectives achieved anyhow, you know.
Very tough international, one of the toughest events I've ever done in my life, to make rallying in Ireland very, very easy after this. Today was a tremendous day in the fog and the rain and slipping and sliding around. We just stayed in our position and we're glad to finish.
So there's the result, a great win for Colin McRae, but with 4 of our own drivers in the top 10, a good result for Ireland.
And in the Dunlop Tarmac Championship, James Cullen takes over the lead, 2 points ahead of Colin McRae. But both Bertie Fisher and Kenny McKinstry are still there.